So my name is Matt Cooper. I'm a instructor here at PDX Code Guild, teaching the Python full stack class. And one of the frameworks we do cover in the course is Flask, which is a pretty nice framework. The focus of the course is Django, which is more of a complete and comprehensive framework, and Flask is sort of bare bones. So I thought I would kind of just demonstrate the principles of designing a multi-page application using Flask and Vuetify for the front end. So we're actually going to have a decoupled front end and back end. The back end's going to be in Flask. I'm also going to use an ORM to access that data, SQLAlchemy. And then the front end is going to be in Vuetify, and I'm going to use Axios for the AJAX calls. So we're going to use a whole bunch of libraries. Can't spend too much time on any of them, unfortunately, but should be good. So yeah, just an intro, like the difference between multi-page applications and single-page applications. Right, multi-page applications are more traditional ways of setting up a web app. You have a app running on the server, you send a request to it. The server gets data out of the database, it runs some code, it builds up some HTML, and then responds to the browser with that rendered HTML page. And then the browser receives the HTML page and displays it and runs the JavaScript and all that stuff. The multi-page application paradigm is basically the first web request is the same. It'll send a request to the server responds with the render template to the browser, but then all the subsequent clicks, instead of getting new pages from the server, you use AJAX. So this it results in a better user experience. You can have nice clean transitions between your pages. Instead of having that flash of white when the browser refreshes the page and gets a whole new page from the server. Okay, and I'm going to try to do this from scratch. Hopefully we won't have any major hiccups. Okay. And can everybody see my code okay? Okay. So what we're going to be building is a book browser. So I'm just going to have this, I got this books.json. It's got 100 books in it with a couple different fields. Got author, country, image, language, URL, pages, title, and year. They are, unfortunately, the keys were sorted in alphabetical order. So obviously you would put title first normally, but yeah, the image here, I actually hosted, here, let me go grab that link really fast. I put all the code on, we have a Tech Talk repo. Close that, Tech Talks. So all the code that I'm going to be doing is basically here in this folder. So if you want to look at these links for the documentation, the different libraries that we're using, you can. Then if you want to look at the source code for all the stuff we're going to be doing, you can do that too. So I'll put that link in Zoom. If I can find the chat. I don't know where the chat is. Here, 1 second, sorry. The chat disappeared on me. So and I hosted all the images in like on GitHub, and basically we're going to, I'm using GitHub as the image host basically. So we're going to be sending the requests for the images to actually GitHub. So that's why the image field only has just the name of the file there. Okay, all right, cool. So one last thing is I'm also starting with this list of requirements. These are just the libraries that we're going to use So yeah, this is our books.json. Right, that was the file I was talking about. So we're just going to, this is hosted on GitHub. So we're going to have to combine the rest of the URL to actually get the link to the image. And then this is our requirements.txt, which has all our requirements for Python. So I just created a virtual environment. You can see it here. So I'm going to do a pip install -r requirements.txt. Okay. I was worried I forgot it for a second there. And luckily it's all cached, so it just has to install it. Okay. So pip freeze again, and we should see there's our beautiful libraries that we got. Okay, so I'm going to create the Flask app now. So app.py. Just keep it pretty simple to start. From Flask, import Flask. And just create a really simple like route at app.route. We'll put it under the path books. Def books. And a really cool part of Flask is you can just respond with a dictionary and it'll turn into JSON automatically. So to test it out, let's just return a dictionary. We can just represent a book or something like that. Book title, The Odyssey, author, Homer. Okay. I think that's good. Def books. I'm not sure why I'm getting that red squiggly. And then to run the app, oh, I have to do some other stuff. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, you have to say app equals Flask, under name. That just creates the Flask app. And then down here, I just have to say app.run, and I set debug equals true. So this is going to run the app, and debug equals true is just going to automatically restart the app every time I edit the app.py file. So if I run python app.py, you can see it is running our Flask app, running at localhost 5000. So let's pull that up. Localhost 5000. And it was the view was under the path books. Okay. So we've got our JSON in response, right? And we can check, we send the request to this view. If we wanted to go to the networks tab, we should be able to see that the request did in fact respond with content type application/JSON. So that's the cool part about Flask is, right, all we have to do is return a dictionary and it turns into JSON for us. Okay, so I think the next big step is I'm going to work in SQLAlchemy, and I'm not super familiar with this, so there might be a few hiccups, but SQLAlchemy is a really nice, it's an ORM. ORM stands for Object-Relational Mapping, and it just allows us to interact with the SQLite database. But you can also use SQLAlchemy for MySQL or Postgres or any backend that you want. I was originally just going to use a JSON file as the database, but that's fine. So we also have to let's first import our JSON file. We have this books.json, and I just want to write a short function that will just load it. So let's say def load books JSON. No parameters, with open books.json. Read as file. Text is equal to file.read. So we're just reading the contents of the file. And then we'll just convert it into a Python dictionary. And I also have to import JSON. Let's test this out. Let's test this out. I'm going to say data is equal to load books JSON, return data. And something's gone horribly wrong. I'm going to find variable books. That error doesn't make any sense. Server's restarting. Let's see. Did I forget a colon or something? No, that's perfectly fine syntax. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we can look at that further. Works fine. So you can see this is literally the contents of books.json. But it's just fed to us as through the web app. Okay, so we can read the file. Can I close that and reopen it? I don't know. VS Code just bugged out for a second. Okay, so next I'm going to set up another view, like with the path reset. And what this view is going to do is it's going to basically create our db.SQLite 3 database. So I have to add a couple lines up here first. Okay, app.config. So we need to tell database URI. We need to tell Flask to use this database ://db.SQLite3. So we're just basically telling the Flask app which database we're using. And then we also have to say from Flask _ SQLAlchemy import SQLAlchemy. Okay. And then the DB is equal to SQLAlchemy app. So we just initialize this is like an object representing the database, and we just initialize it with our app, which contains the path to the file that we're going to use. And then next, we have to actually define the schema for our class that represents the book. So this is a lot of typing, so I've actually already prepared a little bit to copy paste it. Dunder str. Okay. So basically, this book represents a table in the database. It allows us to interact with the database through SQLAlchemy. So if you're already familiar with Django, this is just your models.py basically. And we've got all the fields that we also have in our books.json, but we also have an ID field to represent the primary key. Okay, so and then let's write another view that's actually going to load all that data from our JSON file into our database. So at app.route /reset def reset data equals load books JSON. So again, that's just loading all this big dictionary of books out of our JSON file. And then we're just gonna we're gonna call db.dropAll, which just clears out all the tables in the database. And then db.createAll is going to recreate all the tables in the database. So let's put that down there. And then now what we're gonna do is we're gonna loop over our books and we're gonna add them into our database one at a time. So for book data and data of books. So data is the whole dictionary. Data of books is this list. So book data is each of these dictionaries individually, which has those 7 key value pairs. So Next, we can take a little bit of a shortcut here. We're going to instantiate our model. Normally, you list out all the fields and their values as keyword arguments, but we're gonna cheat a little bit. Because all the fields have the same names, we're going to use the double star to actually to pass our dictionary as quarks. So we're taking this dictionary here and we're passing it as keyword arguments to book. Normally you would say book equals book, title equals the Odyssey, author equals, Homer, and so on. But I don't want to type all that out. And all the fields are the same names. So, and then we just have to add it to our session and then commit our session. And then we can just return a generic string that says success. Okay, so my Flask app crashed. Okay, it's running again. Should be able to go to localhost 5000/reset, and it's going to open the file, iterate over the data, add the books to our database one at a time, and then just say success. So let's try that out. So localhost 5000/reset. I'm going to try to put these side by side. This might get out of hand. Okay, we see the success. It doesn't look like it crashed. You can see there's a db.sqlite3. So I'm actually going to open up a tool called DB Browser. And DB Browser is just a little desktop application. You can download it for any operating system, but I'm going to use it to actually open that db.sqlite3 file and verify that all that data got transferred. Book browser backend, db.sqlite3. So you can see we've got a book table. We can browse the data, and there's all our books. So that's pretty cool, right? A little bit of a setup. We have to define this class to represent the model, but it's super easy to load data from JSON into our database then. So now we have a nice SQLite database. And again, if you wanted to do this with some other database like Postgres or MySQL or something like that, it'd be just as easy. You just have to configure SQLAlchemy a little bit. All right, so we've got our database. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a view. We're going to go back to our books view. Instead of just dumping all the data, we're actually going to get the data out of our SQLite3 database, and we're also gonna receive. For now, we'll just maybe dump the data, but we will also want to receive a query parameter to allow us to search through the books. Okay, so for now, let's just get all the books. So it's pretty simple with SQLAlchemy. We can just say books is equal to book.query.all. So this just queries our database and gets all the books. But then we have to turn it into a list of dictionaries. Right, to get it into JSON. So we'll start off, our output's just an object, or it's the dictionary with a single key value pair, books, which is an empty list, for book and books. So we iterate over all the books we got out of the database, and then we just have to turn them into a dictionary. And I don't think I'm going to include all the fields on this one. Output of books dot append, and I'll include the ID, the title, the author, and the image. And here the image, right, in the database, it's actually just the file name. Right, image is just the file name. But I'm going to go ahead and combine it with the rest of the URL to actually get the full URL. So the rest of the URL looks like that. So I just went to I went to GitHub and just said like view image, and it gave me this URL. And we just need to combine that with the book.image. Yeah. So that'll give us the full path to the image, and we can verify that that works. Okay. I think that's good. And then all we need to do is return output, or return our dictionary containing a list of dictionaries. So if we go back to locus 5000/books, you can see we've got all our books here. So it's a dictionary containing a list of dictionaries, right? And then each of these dictionaries only contains 4 key value pairs. And let's check that the image worked. Okay, that looked like that worked. Divine comedy, cool. So those links work too. Okay, and then the last thing I want to do on the back end, I want to get a little bit fancy, and I actually want to include a query parameter called search, and I'm actually going to search for books that match that query parameter. So we could just check if search in request.args. And I think we have to also import request. So request.args is our query string as a dictionary. So if we did specify a search parameter, let's get it out. And then let's say books is equal to book.query.filter. And let's just say book.title.contains search. So we're getting all the books whose title contains that search string. And then we'll put this inside an else. So if we didn't specify a search parameter, we'll get all the books. And if we did, we'll only get the ones that match that. So if we go to localhost 5000/books, that should still give us all the books. If my Flask app didn't crash. Okay, it's restarted. Okay, so that gave me all the books. But then if I search for like books !search equals divine for the Divine Comedy, you can see it just gives me that one. Or I know they had I don't know, what's another book? Let's just search for like search equals A. So yeah, it only gets titles that contain A. GA. Yeah, Epic of Gilgamesh or Saga or whatever that is. And we can get a little bit fancy actually with these queries, because we want to check, we want the results if the title contains the search or the author contains the search. So just to show you all how you do that, there's a special like or operator or underscore. It's a little bit weird. Unfortunately, this is equally awkward in Django. And then when we do the filter, we can actually pass in, we'll call or. It's gonna be really hard to read. Okay, or, and then just pass in book.title.contains search or book.author.contains search. Okay, and I think that's all we should have to do. I think we need an extra close paren. So if we were to search now for search equals Dante, cool, that gave us that. I know a bunch of them have like author unknown, so if we search for unknown, you can see we get all those. Okay, so yeah, so we can basically control the output by changing the query parameters. Okay, I think that's it for the backend. Oh, wait, actually there's one more thing on the backend. We need to do the book detail page. So this is one API endpoint. But another one would be a detail page. So at app.route/books/int:book_ID dash book_detail. book_id. So we're actually specifying a variable inside the path. So /book/5/book/10, right? That would /book/10 would give me the book with ID 10. So let's get that book. Book is equal to book.query.get book_id. So, and I don't want to retype this, so I'm just going to copy paste. Sorry. Here we're just creating a dictionary from that book, and then return book. Basically, the same thing we had up here, except I added all the fields. So you can see we have, right here we have the Epic of Gilgamesh ID 4. If we were to go to /book/4, we'll get just all the details for a given book. So, right, so our API has two endpoints, right? One is a search or a list of all the books, and then the other is just a detail page, which gives a lot more information, a lot more fields. Okay, I think that's it for the backend. So, right, that's going to just run on its own. We're just going to leave it running in the background. And then we're going to start building up the front end, and it's going to be running as its own process. Okay. So that's in the book browser backend folder. And then let's cd into the book browser frontend folder. Okay. Now things are going to get a little complex. I'm actually going to go here to the repo page that I linked. I'm going to click into the Vue CLI stuff. You do have to install npm first if you want to use this, and then you can install the Vue CLI this way. And then Vuetify actually has a nice little getting started to walk you through how to get started with the Vuetify app. So, right, Vue is a front-end framework. The Vue CLI, that includes Webpack. So we can have access to fancier features of Vue that we wouldn't if we just used Vue as a CDN. Yeah, the Vue CLI just allows us to use Node and install additional libraries if we need to as well. But it's going to run as a separate process. So we're going to have Flask running as one process, and then the Vue CLI is running as another process. Okay, so first command, Vue create, we'll call it book browser front end. I misspelled that. Front end. Okay. And I'm going to manually select features. There's a lot going on here. I do want to use the router. I don't want to use the linter. And we could spend so much time talking about each of these, but Babel is just a preprocessor. It allows you to use a little bit more fancier JavaScript. The router just allows you to have paths, like paths in the URL. So localhost 8080/books, localhost 8080/books/5. It just allows you to map those into different components. And a component's just it's just a building block of a Vue app. So I do want to include the router. Vuex is I don't even know how to pronounce that, honestly. Vuex. It's like state management if you want to manage your data more centrally. CSS preprocessors is for SAS or less. Linters just for formatting, and then there's some testing stuff. But I want to keep it simple, so I'm just going to use the Vue CLI, Babel, and router. And we're still on 2. History mode for router. Basically, this makes the deployment to production a little bit more complicated, but it does offer a better user experience. And then we're just going to use package.json. And no, we're not going to save those presets. And hopefully this doesn't take too long. So what it's doing is basically like downloading all the libraries required to build a Vue app. This isn't in a Git repository, but I guess. Why does it think it's in a repository? I'm confused.
Does it initialize a Git repository with the Vue create app? I think React does that.
Really? That would be a little bit mind-blowing because it's not, it creates a repository, it's not even hooked up to a URL yet.
I think so.
Here, let's see. I mean, we can reveal in File Explorer and see if there's a hidden .git folder. There is. There is. Wow. Well, let's just delete it because we don't want. Node modules is kind of like our Venv. It's just got all our JavaScript libraries in here. You definitely do not want to commit and push this because that will choke to death any computer. And it's huge. It's 111 megabytes. And it's 17,000 files. I don't know. Okay, so we created our Vue app. If we want to, let's run this next command. This just adds Vuetify to our Vue app. Or we have to cd one level deeper. Cd book browser front end. Okay. And then just Vue add Vuetify. Okay, then that's just installing Vuetify. And then we should be able to run it and test it and make sure that works. Default. Okay, so I'm going to run npm run surge. So that's just like there's a built-in command that's added automatically to our package.json scripts. Serve, Vue CLI, service, serve. All it does is just builds the app and starts running it locally. So I still have the Flask app running in the background here on localhost 5000. And now this one's running on localhost 8080. So if we go to localhost 8080, we should see our nice Vue app. Welcome to Vuetify. Cool. And then, yeah, anytime we like modify any of these files, let's go into source app.vue. I'll just add a new line there, save. You can see our Vue app will automatically restart, which is cool. And hopefully we won't crash it. Okay, so the Vue CLI, it's tough to get started with. There's a lot of files going on. But basically we have our app.vue, which is like our main component. And right now the app.vue actually includes a hello world component. And I think that's like the content over here. You can go into components, hello world.vue. So this is another component that's included. Yeah, I think it's this stuff is actually a separate component. It's really cool how modular you can get with this stuff. And then views is like the main pages of your app. So we've got a home view and we've got an about view so far. Let me just. So I think the next step we're going to take is actually, we're going to set up a couple of views, one for the book list and one for the book detail. So I'm going to create a new file here and just say book list.view. View, it's always got an HTML template. and then it has a script part. You know, if you're ever unsure about this stuff, my recommendation, just go into one of the other components and just start tinkering with things and see what does what. Actually, I should just start with let me just start with the hello worlds. That's too much junk. Whatever. I'll start with this and just strip it down. So I don't think we really care. We can have the container, I guess. I don't really care about anything else. And then the name here is actually book list. And data is basically represents our apps data, and book list, all we're going to have is books. And it's going to start out as a blank list. And I have to apologize in advance. There's my poor VS Code does not know the difference between 2 space files and 4 space files. So unfortunately, spaces 4. Can we change that to spaces 2? No. Nope. We'll just have to deal with it. And unfortunately, I think there's an extension I could add, but right now there's no format document with the .vue files. But okay, so we've got one component is book list, just has books, which is an empty list. And then we're going to have another component, book detail. And that's just going to have the name book detail. And all it's going to have is book, which is an empty dictionary for now. An empty object, sorry. Okay, and I want to start off by setting up the router. Let's do an H1 book detail. And this can be H1 book list /H1. Okay, so the router basically associates paths in the URL. Sorry, let me close all that. The router associates paths in the URL, so localhost 8000 like /book/4 or something like that, with components. So if we go in here, you can see there's routes. Path / will take us to the home component. /about will take us to the about component. So let's import those other 2 components we have. So import book list from /vue /book list.vue, and import book detail from /vue /book detail. Okay, and then we'll set up 2 more routes. Let me just look at this. Make sure I got the syntax right. Path. So the first one to books, the book list view is pretty easy. It would just be /books is the path, and then the name is book list space, and then the component is book list. Okay. And then the next one, the path is /. So here actually we want to specify like there's going to be /books, which is the list of books, and then /book/5 is going to be the detail page for a book, kind of just like the backend. So /book/:book_id. So we're just specifying a variable in the path. So it'll match anything like /book/5, /book/10. And then the name is book detail, and the component is book detail. Okay, that should work. So and then inside our apps we've got H1s at least inside the template, so we should be able to see at least book list and book detail. So let's try it. /books. Oh, one more thing I forgot to add. Inside my app.view, I'm actually going to strip out a lot of this junk because nobody wants to see all that stuff. So I think we can delete most of this. I think I'll leave that, and I'll leave the v-app bar. But this one's going to have an H1 book browser. Vuetify is very fancy, and they have kind of like standardized ways of organizing things. But I'm just going to be a little bit of a sledgehammering and just throw H1s in places. I think that should be good. And then this has to change to router-view. So this basically tells Vue, put whatever component we're currently looking at from the router here. Okay. So /books, you can see it loaded the book list component, and /books/5 loaded the book detail component. Cool. So very simple. So next, I think what we're going to do is try to set up the Axios call. So Axios is it's another JavaScript library for sending HTTP requests, AJAX calls to a web server. So, and I have to do to get that, I could use a CDN and just have a script tag inside my template, but I'm going to actually use npm install -- save Axios. Is it Axios -- save, or does that work too? Looks like it's installing. They're just warnings. It's not a big deal. Okay, and then in our book list here, we're gonna need to send an Axios call to our Flask app to get the data. So we have to import Axios. Import Axios from Axios. And our data is just books. And so we're going to add another section, methods. So these are our app methods. They're just functions we can call. Get books is a function. And we'll do our Axios call. Our method is going to be get. Our URL is going to just be http://localhost:5000/books. Right. So this is where we're sending our HTTP request. So we should be able to retrieve this data and see it inside our Vue app. Okay. So, and that URL is good. Don't need the comma there. And then the .then part will handle the response. Let's just say console.log response.data. So just logging the response data and see what we get. Console crashed. Oh, the front end's not running. That'll do it. Okay. Cool. Oh, we never called our getBooks method. So we're gonna have to add what's called a lifecycle hook. And this function is basically going to be called when the app's created. and I'm just going to call this .get books. Okay, run that. Okay. Access to XML HTTP request at blah, blah, from origin localhost 8080 has been blocked by course policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. So luckily I tested this out beforehand, and yeah, this is CORE stands for cross origin resource sharing. It's basically a browser feature that it restricts users. It tries to force the front end to only send requests to its own backend. So I'm sending a request from localhost 8080 to localhost 5000. So it doesn't like that. It wants me to just send requests to localhost 8080. So this is called the same origin policy. But anyway, there's a special response header that you can include on the JSON response. So if you were to look at the network tab, basically it's saying in the response headers that there's no access control allow origin star. So luckily we have control over the backend here, so we can just add that access control allow origin star. So let's go all the way back to the backend. And I found a lot of different approaches for actually handling this, and all of them were horrible. But I did manage to find one that worked pretty well. It's just funny on Stack Overflow how everybody tries to get you to install another library. They're like, oh yeah, this is an easy one. Just install this library and call this function. Like, I don't want to install a library for every little problem I encounter. But this is basically a little, it's a little function that's run whenever Flask responds. And it just allows us to add a little header, response.headers.add, access, control, allow, origin, star. Okay, and return response. So we get to just tack on a little header in the response. If we send a request back to this view, we should then see our access control allow origin star on the response headers. So then here, we should be able to send the requests and get back our data. Cool. So we got the data into our Vue app. Nice. Okay. It's already 6. I'm going to keep going. We'll go over it for a little bit. I am confident I can squish it all in before 6:30. And maybe leave a little time for questions. We'll see. Okay, so we've got our data into our Vue app. Next, we want to actually assign that to our components data. So here, books is just an empty array. But what we can do is say this dot books is equal to response dot data dot books. So we're taking the data that we got from the API and assigning it to our components data. And then we can refer to it inside our template. So this is going to require a little bit of typing. But let's go start with a V card, because I want to use a card. Vuetify. We haven't had much time to like really explore Vuetify, but Vuetify is amazing. It's one of my favorite CSS libraries. It just got it all. Anything you'd ever need to add to a web app. I mean, look at this calendar. What other framework has a built-in calendar? You just give it a bunch of dates and it just works right out of the box. It's kind of amazing. But anyway, we're going to use a card because I want to show the books in cards. And I think we can use this card because it's got an image in it. So the Vuetify documentation is amazing. Any of these examples, you could just click this little view source and it'll just give you the source. So And then you should be able to just copy paste that, plop it in, see what it looks like. And something crashed. I think there was additional code in that HTML. So we got some errors, but yeah, okay. So that card looks like it works. So I want to put these. I want to make multiple cards. Well, let me remove all this junk first, because it's a little ridiculous. I'm just going to remove everything inside the card because it's just too much. Okay. And for the card, we're going to add a v4 equals book in books. So we're going to generate a card for each of our books. And inside the card, the first thing we'll have is the v-dash image. So this will be like the cover. We can control the height. Let's just say 250. And then here, I'm going to actually set the source attribute of the image. And that's just going to be book.image. All right, because that's the URL of that's the URL of the image here. That looks good. / v-dash image. Okay. Yeah. And you can already see, right? Those are the images of all our books. Chopped off a little bit of it, but that's fine. And then I'm going to add actually a v-card-title. And then have book.title. Okay, and then some text, v-card-text. Again, you can look in the Vuetify documentation to see all this stuff. V-dash. Not gonna lie, the v-dash is a little bit annoying, but it is nice to have like these custom components you can just add. So yeah, you can see now we've got a card for each of our books that contains title and the author. I also wanted to throw this thing inside a Flexbox because they're all in a single column, which is, looks horrible. So we're gonna wrap this v card. Where did this template come from? I don't think that should be there. I think that was part of the card. Yeah, didn't want that. But okay, so I'm gonna wrap all my cards in a, just gonna give it a div, I guess. Div class equals, and then Vuetify has a couple like rebuilt classes for making flex boxes, which is super convenient. So div and then /div. Okay, so yeah, now we have a nice grid and it should expand. Yeah, looks pretty good. Oh, this tech talk's getting X-rated. You can edit that out, Pete. Okay. So we've got our title and our text. We've got a list of books. Great. Next, I think what we want to do is actually set up the detail page. So I'm going to make a link. I'm going to do another part of the card you can add is v-card-actions. So this is just like for a button bar. And v-btn is just a button. So call it primary. href. So I'm setting this to a variable. The colon is just like vbind. but it's going to be /books. This is actually a JavaScript expression, so I have to put it in another set of quotes. /book/book.id. Something like that, and then view details /v-btn. Okay. So each of these should now have a button, view details. And when I click it, you can see it goes to /book/1. I click that, it should go to /book/4. That looks good. Okay. So let me refresh the page. I just want to make sure I'm not, method of property loading. That comes from this. We just don't want that. That was just a holdover from the example that I copy pasted. Yeah, that all looks fine. Okay, so we've got the link set up. We've got the detail page set up. We got the ID passed as a parameter, which is cool. Maybe you want to include a little slash at the end of this. I like ending my URLs on a slash. I don't know. Feels more proper. Yeah, /book/1 works great. Okay, so the next part, we're actually going to jump back into our detail view app. So kind of a similar setup here. We're gonna have to add a method section with the method getBook, which is a function. And here we're also gonna do an Axios call. So the method again is get. The URL here is going to be localhost 5000. I have to do an HTTP / localhost 5000 /book/ and then here I have to include. Oops. Here I have to include the ID of the book, right? Because we have this. I wrote this now. I could do that. /books/5. Okay, so I have to get this 5 out, and the way you do that is you there's a special variable. So let's say let book_ID is equal to this $$route.params .book_ID. So this book ID part actually came from here, book ID. So yeah, that's where we're getting the actual value 5. And then we just need to include that at the end of the URL. So /book_ID plus /. So again, we're sending a GET request to localhost 5000 /book/5, for example. And then we get just a single book here. Okay. That looks good. So next, we'll add the .then part. For now, let's just do console.log response.data and verify that we did get the book that we're looking for. So /book/5 should be the book of Java. /book/5. We never called our method. I always do that. So we have to add that created lifecycle hook again. This .getBook. Axios is not defined. I have to add that from Axios. Import Axios, I think is the syntax. No, it's the opposite. Axios, import Axios.
Is import first?
Yeah, imports first.
I think it's like from the first in Python.
Yeah. 404. I think it's /books. /books. Okay, there you go. So we got our data. got our book. In the interest of time, I'm just going to copy paste some of this HTML a little bit. But we can step through it. Let's also assign, we need to assign that book to our apps data. So book is an empty object right now. We'll actually, if we want to refer to the components, we'll actually have to initialize it to have some values. So just make it just a bunch of blank values. And then here we can say this dot book is equal to response dot data, because response dot data is the whole book. So there you go. The book of job by unknown. Yeah. So the HTML that I built up for this just little demo page. Got a Vue container again, added a flex box. Here's the image for this book image. And then I add another flex box as a column that just contains the title, the author, and the country/language. So that should work though. We should be able to go back to books and then click on one of these fairy tales. You see that? Click that. See that? Cool. Neil Saga. It's a good one. Cool. So we have a detail page now. Last feature I want to add is just a search, and this will actually be relatively quick. So on the book list page, I just want to add a little search bar here. So I'm just going to add another container. And I set the v model of this text field to search text. So that means in our app data, we have that search text here, just a blank string initially. Okay. So yeah, so you type in something and then you can hit search. And we bound that variable to search text. So all we really have to modify, and then this, sorry, and then this does actually, the ACLIG does get books. So this just calls the get books method again. All we have to modify here is we have to add that search value into our params. Params get turned into the query string. So search this dot search text. Cool. So search for Dante. Search. Get that. If I search for unknown. All right, these are all the books whose author is unknown. And so on. So yeah, that's basically it's a complete single page application. We didn't do all the CRUD operations, we didn't save any records, but we have a backend in Flask. You can send requests to /books, get a list of books, include search equals, some string. You can get a subset of the data, and then added /books/5, for example, to get a detail page. And then the front end, we set up this nice list page where we list out all the books. We added the detail page where we see just a single book. And then we added the search feature just to kind of filter our data. So yeah, this is a single page application. It's all just happening in a single page. So there's ways to get the transition between the pages a little smoother. You can actually add animations and stuff like that, but it should be really nice and responsive. Okay, I think that's about it for me. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, first the Vue Create app. So if you choose, choose like Vuex, choose router, it doesn't just come with the dependencies, it also gives you a boilerplate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it modifies like all the source files. Like if you select what's that called? What's the flavor of JavaScript that has strong typing? TypeScript.
TypeScript.
Yeah, if you select TypeScript, basically all your components, instead of having this like export stuff, it'll actually have classes for each of your components, which is cool. So
Cool. So like with Flask, like where's the point where you're because you can like whip up something like this really quickly with Flask, and there's like at what point would something like Django become what you would use instead? I mean, there's like the user stuff is like something that comes to mind.
yeah. I mean, with Django, you get the beauty of Django is it comes with everything you'll need, immediately. So it has its built-in ORM. It's got a nice admin panel. You don't get that with Flask. Yeah, the user stuff is really nice with Django. There are large scale applications that use Flask. I think Pinterest uses Flask. I forget. There's a list online. But yeah, if I was personally building anything larger than just a quick demo or something like that, or just like anything larger than like a little API to just send some JSON data, I would use Django instead. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it must be nice having such like minute control over everything, but at the end of the day, it's like hard to imagine why, like on a big project, if you're going to start like a big project, you would use Flask compared to some other things. But it's a cool little framework.
Yeah. Like the cool thing with Django too is it all your files have a definite place to go. Like where to put everything. And if you have a really large application, you break it into multiple apps, and then each of the apps has their own models, views, and templates. With Flask, it's you get full control over that file structure, but you're liable to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, cool stuff though.
Yeah,
that was a good talk.
Cool. I hope everybody got something out of it.
Yeah. Everyone who's left. Charlie liked it.
What would you say Flask shines at more than Django, other than like Django just shining at something over Flask? Because like I understand like Flask isn't great at like user authentication or security particularly, but like not like out of the box anyways. But
yeah, I mean, Flask shines if you're a DIY kind of person. I mean, some developers, they like to have complete control and build things up from scratch and get into all the nitty gritty details. And then some other developers like to just have all those, pre-built for them and then just use them and just worry about other problems. So it's kind of like, it comes down to style, I guess, largely. You might use, like Django, you have the built-in ORM, and that's your only option. And you have the built-in template rendering, and that's your only option. With Flask, if you decide, oh, I want to use a different ORM, or oh, I want to use a different template rendering engine, you can do that. So it's that constant balance of convenience and control you find throughout tech.
So flexibility, I guess you would say, it's like it's more customizable.
Yeah, exactly. I personally am a really lazy person, so I like using Django.